struggling to sell out a home opener for the first time, even in the nosebleeds. What could be the reason for the decline? Man, I mean, who would have thought there would be tickets available there. What is going on? What is happening here?
What is going on here? If you look at the screen, every dot shows an empty seat for the Indiana Fever home opener on May 9th against the Phoenix Mercury. If you followed this team last year, this feels surprising because in 2024 their home games sold out in less than an hour. Fans rushed to get tickets, resale prices were very high, and Gainbridge Fieldhouse was one of the most popular places to watch women's basketball. So what changed? Training camp has just started, which is usually when excitement is at its highest and fans are eagerly waiting for the season. But instead, the team's social media looks like it is trying hard to sell tickets, posting link after link asking people to buy seats for a game that should have sold out long ago.
You've got a segment of fans that are still pissed off about last year and how the Indiana Fever decided to handle Caitlin Clark's injury. That's a factor. Then you put in the fact that the team takes a basketball player that literally run her mouth about the fandom 2 weeks before she was drafted to said team. It's like, wait a minute. All that drama Angel Reese caused by calling Indiana Fever fans racist, and you brought Angel Reese light to the team?
3 specific decisions led to this situation, and they all happened within the last 4 months. First was the Raven Johnson draft pick on April 14th. The Indiana Fever used a second-round pick on a player who, just 2 weeks earlier, had publicly criticized a large part of their fan base, even describing some Caitlin Clark fans in a negative way during an interview. Looking at the timing, it stands out those comments came on April 1st, and then she was drafted on April 14th. To many fans, the message felt clear: their opinions did not matter. What made it more controversial is that other experienced players like Odyssey Sims, Tina Charles, and Erica McCall were available at the time. The team had options that might not have upset fans, but instead chose a player who was more likely to create backlash.
The Fever, you knowingly drafted her after she crushed the fans as racist? You put her on the squad. All the while, Ari McDonald and Odyssey Sims was setting out there. Odyssey's not now. She's with the Wings. But you had viable options. This is the route you decided to go. And then we find out, okay, you're going to manage Caitlin Clark. Not only that, but we're seeing signs of you playing Caitlin Clark, not at point, but everywhere but
the Johnson pick was only the beginning. The second decision came in late April, when Stephanie White's coaching approach started becoming clear through practice reports and preseason interviews. There was talk of managing minutes for Caitlin Clark using load management, more off-ball plays, and limiting her time on the court to keep her healthy for the playoffs. For many fans, this brought back bad memories from last season. On September 11, 2024, the Indiana Fever held Clark out of their final regular season game with what was called an ankle issue, which ended her chances of competing for the scoring title. The team said it was just precautionary rest, but many people felt it was more about managing public perception than competing. Now, months later, the same approach seems to be coming back. In practical terms, this creates a real problem for fans. Imagine someone traveling hours to Indianapolis, spending money on tickets, a hotel, food, and time off work, only to find out the team might rest their star player or limit her to around 25 minutes. That uncertainty makes it much harder for fans to commit.
Another year of standing or sitting in my house, watching Caitlin Clark stand in the corner waiting to get the ball back, because if she ever gets the ball and passes it, you can forget it. It'll never come back around to her. And frankly, we feel like Stephanie White doesn't want it to come back around to Caitlin. Indiana Fever's got a problem, and it's now affecting their business. Wake up, training camp starts today, and it's like, okay.
Third decision is something people aren't openly saying, but it's showing up everywhere in fan discussions: Stephanie White's offensive system. Reports from training camp suggest that Caitlin Clark is being used mostly without the ball setting screens, standing in the corner, and moving around more like Klay Thompson rather than playing her natural, ball-dominant style like Stephen Curry. Anyone who watched the Indiana Fever last season can imagine how that might look. Clark passes the ball and then waits in the corner, but often doesn't get it back because the play ends with a rushed shot or a turnover. This pattern repeats and frustrates fans. The concern is that this system doesn't match her strengths. White's past teams have used slower, more structured offenses that focus on ball movement instead of individual playmaking. That kind of system can work with a balanced roster, but it may not suit a player who is most effective in fast-paced situations like transition plays and pick and roll. Because of that, many feel the strategy doesn't fit the player, and either the team doesn't recognize it or is choosing to ignore it.
That's a lot of tickets available, folks. Look at that. There's a lot of tickets. I mean, on television, that's going to show as gaps. And we know, look, very likely these tickets will end up going to somebody. They're going to go to somebody before the game gets here. But the mere fact that this game is not sold out after how quick previous games sell out.
So now, on the first day of training camp, the Indiana Fever can't even sell out their home opener. This is the same franchise that reportedly brought in more revenue than any WNBA team last season and turned from a struggling team into a major cultural story. Yet now, they're pushing hard just to sell tickets, almost like they've gone backwards. The issue, some argue, goes beyond the front office or coaching staff. It points higher up to Herb Simon and the leadership at Pacers Sports and Entertainment, who control the bigger financial decisions.
Backlash, they don't like to hear complaints. You're in sports. You're in sports. If you're in leadership in a front office, you're going to get destroyed. There are teams that win the Super Bowl, their fans are destroying the front office by the time you get around to the draft 3 months later. Welcome to sports coverage. But your skin is so thin from nobody ever having watched this league, you can't handle it. It's the fans' fault. All your decision-making is the fans' fault?
Look at those empty seats again. They're not just unsold tickets, they're a warning sign. It's fans saying, we're not going through this again until you show you've learned something. And that skepticism makes sense, because everything the Indiana Fever has done this offseason gives the impression that nothing has changed. They drafted a player who had already upset part of the fan base, brought in a coach whose system may not highlight their biggest star, and are already talking about rest and load management before the season has even started.
You're fumbling the bag right in front of us. Man, the fact that Raven Johnson was even on their draft board that is so insulting. It really is. I just can't even fathom that she was on their draft board. While fan favorites just sat out there unsigned. God, that's such a middle finger to fans. I mean, it's unbelievable.
What makes this so frustrating is that none of these mistakes were unavoidable. The Indiana Fever had options at every step and chose the riskier path each time. With the Raven Johnson pick, they didn't have to go in that direction. Second-round picks are usually for depth players you can develop quietly without controversy. Instead, they picked someone who already had public backlash, which made it feel like they were ignoring fan sentiment. Then there's the load management approach for Caitlin Clark. At 23, coming off a full college and pro season, she's played a lot, but there haven't been clear signs of injury or concern. That makes early talk of limiting her minutes feel excessive, like a decision driven more by fear than actual need.